Hi everybody, I'm Adriana and welcome back to my channel. I am very excited because today is going to be my first sit down video in a long time and the first of a couple coming up on this channel, because if you guys do not already know or you missed the announcement video, Robert and I are expecting. Right now I am about halfway through my 17th week, so I'm like 16 weeks and like 5 days-ish. I wanted to sit down and make a first trimester recap video. I have been keeping notes throughout my entire pregnancy so far since I found out of how I've been feeling, kind of just like mentally, emotionally, physically, and just kind of the things that have happened so far. And I really wanted to share them on this channel, one as a documentation for myself so that I can look back later, whether it be far in the future or maybe with future children we may hope to have, and see how like symptoms and stuff compare and contrast. But also just because I feel like I love these videos, I love hearing other women's experience in pregnancy and what they're feeling and what they, I don't know, just like the things that they go through. And I personally like am fascinated by pregnancy and birth, to the point that like someday I would really love to be like a doula or midwife, maybe sooner than later. I've looked into it a lot, especially as I do more learning for this pregnancy. But I love watching these and I just wanted to go ahead and share my experience and just put it out there and see if it relates to anybody, or if you can feel like you are seen from my experience, or if maybe you're just fascinated by all of this and you're just learning about it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I wrote notes shortly after we found out. I bought myself a little notebook. It says mom notes on it. I bought it right around Mother's Day actually, in May, right? Mother's Day is in May? I think it is, yeah. So that I could write things down, and I honestly loved it. I've kind of just used it as my journal in general. I always have a journal, like especially like for church notes and for like notes during my quiet time and things like that. But I just kind of put everything in here because I thought it would be extra special just to see like the other things that were happening in my life too during this season, even if it's not necessarily pregnancy related. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go back in time a little bit to the very beginning, when we found out. I'm gonna try and take you guys through this experience week by week as best as I can. For some background, we were not necessarily trying for children right now, but we were just kind of open-handed with whatever the Lord had to give us. I didn't really think that it would be a quick thing for us, so I wasn't really expecting a surprise, but I'm really grateful that that's the way it came out and that that is part of our story, because I really couldn't imagine more perfect timing, and I'm just thankful that I didn't plan it and the Lord just knew what we needed, and I'm really grateful for that. For some more background too, I was not on birth control. I've never been on birth control, so that I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but just for some additional information. And we had actually just gotten back from our like big bucket list trip to Japan. That was like the one trip we knew that we really wanted to do before children came into the picture. And so kind of as we were looking at the year, back in 2022, we were like, okay, if this is something we want to do, then we have to do it now. Like it needs to happen now, so that if the Lord decides he wants us to have children sooner than later, we have like zero regrets. And I'm just so grateful that it turned out that way, because according to my calendar here, my last period was on March 25th, I believe, is when I got my last period. I was scheduled to ovulate Monday the 3rd of April, and then I was supposed to get my period, I believe, on the 17th of April, and I took my first test on the 20th. Mind you, that test I took at like 5 p.m. because I truly had no clue that I was pregnant. Like nothing told me that, except for the fact that I was already 3 days late on my period. Now mind you, I've been late on my period before, but I've never missed a period in my life. I have very regular periods, so I know when the slightest thing is like off. And I was about 3 days late at that point, and if I had again missed it on that Thursday, I would have been 4 days late. And that was longer than the span of time I've ever been late before. So I was like, okay, let me just take one. Let me just take one just to know. Even though I know like it was gonna be super diluted by 5 p.m. So like there was really no point in taking it. And yet still, I took a little expired paper flimsy test that I had from Amazon that I bought when we first got married. And the faintest line in the world did indeed show up. You can see the whole thing on our like finding out I'm pregnant video that I'll tag in here somewhere. But I won't get into it too much, but that happened, and then we were a little bit in denial, a lot of it in denial, and so the next day we took like an actual clear paper that just said pregnant or not pregnant, and it in fact did say pregnant, and we were in total shock. It was not the reaction that I was expecting myself to have when I finally came to that moment, but it was just pure shock. It was just 100% pure shock because we weren't planning it. But again, it was a welcome and happy surprise. And so after I had about like 10 to 15 minutes of, oh my gosh, then I was like, yay, happy. Okay, so that was that. And that's kind of the timeline that we were on there. The very first thing I did was call and make a gynecologist appointment, and then I called a midwife that I've been following on Instagram for a couple years. I'm not sure how I found her. I believe I found her through some women at the church I used to go through who had home births, and I knew that that was always a route that I was very intrigued by and fascinated by, and I knew that was potentially something I wanted to pursue, and so I wanted to schedule a consultation. I did that. The very first thing, I think she was the first person I told, because I was like, I need to know. And so that was the first thing I did, and that was the 21st that we took that like electronic test. At this point, I felt nothing. Like, I felt no different at all. I felt nothing was telling me I was pregnant. My entire life, I thought that I was going to have some sort of instinct that told me that something was different in my body. That was not the case at all. I felt perfectly normal, and actually that was part of the reason why I even felt like I needed to take a pregnancy test, because typically when I get my periods, I feel like there's a hair on me and I keep trying to get it, but typically when I'm about to get my period, I have those typical like my period is coming symptoms, like maybe my boobs are sore, or like I know like my feet tend to get sore, or like the mild cramping I tend to feel out of my feet and stuff like that. I felt nothing. Like, I felt so normal that it was suspicious. And so that was really, really bizarre to me. And I felt normal for a while, a couple weeks, until, so I found out on the 21st, and mind you, that's still pretty early to find out. At that point, I don't even think I was like a full 4 weeks yet. Maybe I was, but it was still very early, so it's perfectly normal that I didn't feel anything at that point. And I did not feel anything until a little bit later. So I have some notes here from May 2nd, and this is when I was about 5 weeks and 3 days. And the first symptom that I noticed at this point, and I literally have it in all caps, it just says, I smell. And I said, the BO is bad. My nipples are sensitive, I'm slightly exhausted, and I have mild cramping. Mind you, I was very, very, very tired those weeks coming back from Japan, but I credited that to being literally like 12 or 13 hours off schedule, because we were literally across the world. So I just contributed my exhaustion to my body is not adjusted to coming back yet. Never did I think maybe this is exhaustion because of pregnancy. But as time went on, I was like, oh no, we're past Japan. This is pregnancy exhaustion. So I smelled really bad, and when I say that, I mean like different than ever. Like, I don't normally have to wear deodorant. I work from home, and I'm just not a smelly gal naturally. But I was very smelly at this point, and it was to the point that I was just like, I need deodorant, like desperately. Like, I smelled so bad, and so that was the whole thing. My nipples were sensitive. That is something that is still a situation. But man, I'll never forget it. One time there was like, I had gotten out of the shower and I saw there was like towel lint on my nipple, and I went to like either flick it off, and I accidentally like flicked my, oh no, I think I like tried to like pinch it off and accidentally pinched my nipple, and literally it was like so painful. Like, it should not have been that painful, but it was. And then the mild cramping, which did kind of make me a little bit nervous. But by this point, I think I might have had the midwife appointment already at this point. I'm not quite sure, but I know that the cramping was normal, and when I did bring up the cramping to my midwife, she had told me that it's literally just your body making room for a baby and for your uterus to grow. And it's been really cool to learn all of the things that my body is going through. So that's a little bit about that. We're gonna move forward a little bit here and now. And when I really started to feel pregnant was unfortunately the very same day that we flew out to New Jersey to get on a week-long cruise for not one, but 2 weddings. If you don't know, Robert and I are wedding videographers. I also do photography and a bunch of other like creative things, but our main job is wedding videography. Our website is Golden View Video Co, and something that we've been really blessed to be able to do is a decent bit of destination weddings, especially cruise weddings, where we offer like photo and video packages. And so that has been something that we've been really looking forward to because we had a lot of that travel this year. Unfortunately though, a lot of that travel just happened to line up with my first trimester, and I did not feel so good. The nausea kicked in that day. So it was May 7th that I woke up, and as we were preparing to leave the house to go to the airport was when I actually was like, oh no, I feel bad. Like, I don't feel good. And just for some background on me and like my body, I am not a throw upper, like I'm not a vomiter. I could tell you the last, well, not since, but before pregnancy, I could tell you the last time I threw up, and I think it was about 9 years old. And it was in the backseat of my mom's car on the way to elementary school. Like, I can literally tell you exactly when the last time I threw up was, because my body just does not have that reaction to things. My stomach is not really like bothered by a bunch of things. So nausea like kind of took me for a loop. I felt the nausea really bad that whole cruise long, like really bad, and it was the worst in the morning. But morning sickness is a lie. And it is not just in the morning. And although it was worst in the morning, anytime that my stomach was slightly empty, it was bad. It was just a really yucky feeling. Thankfully, and this is one situation where I know people are gonna hate me for it, but thankfully I only threw up once in the entire time that I've been pregnant so far. And it was just this really random morning where I just felt like I needed to throw up, and I did. And for the most part, but I had been nauseous every day, but never had that urge to actually throw up. So I'm very thankful for that, but the nausea still sucked. And so that started on May 7th and didn't really go away until recently, and even then I still have to like eat something all the time. Like, there's no missing meals. Like, before pregnancy I was not a breakfast eater, never really ate breakfast. But now I have to eat breakfast. Like, it is not a choice. I need to put something in my body, because if not, it will revolt and I will feel like garbage. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, things look a little bit different. I had a meeting with a bride and groom of ours. Their wedding is like in 2 weeks, so I have to stop and take that meeting. I think I talked a little bit about like needing breakfast and all of that. So pretty much now the next notes that I have are from a couple weeks later, or really a week later actually. It's when we got back from the cruise, because that was 7 days. We got back on Mother's Day, which was the 14th of May, and we had our first ultrasound appointment on May 15th, and that was my first OB appointment as well, for this pregnancy. I did not really have an OB or gynecologist that I had like a good relationship with prior to this. I did my pap smears and stuff, but like never did I really feel like I connected with any of my doctors. And so I just went to the clinic that I'm used to going to for this first appointment to kind of confirm the pregnancy and all that, and I did not have a good experience. I mean, we got to see the baby for the first time, and I will include some footage of that here. I appreciate that.
7 weeks, 3 days, so pretty much exactly where you thought. It will never be exact, but we should be pretty close.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's
it right here.
Oh, I heard myself laugh. I think at least.
Yeah, you did. 145 for the heartbeat. There it is. So there it is.
One. So that's
Just
awesome. So many people have been saying so many jokes about us having more than one, so.
Oh no. Yeah, no, one's enough. One at a time. So that gives you a due date around 12/29.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Okay. So 7 weeks and 3 days, okay?
Very cool. Thank you.
There they are. They're big. And that was a really super sweet moment. It was probably I was really looking forward to that, because that just like showed me like this is real. It's not some like fluke, like it's actually happening. Sorry guys, I had to break my sentence because I said the gender and we're doing the gender reveal later. So yes, I think I forgot to say it at the beginning of this video, but I will be announcing the gender of our baby when we get to that point in the journey as I take you guys along. But this was the first time we got to see the baby, and I was really excited for Robert to have that moment, because I feel like for the moms, like at some point like we start to feel pregnant and we feel all the symptoms and we know what's happening, but the dads are just kind of like, I think it's happening. So I feel like it was really sweet for Robert to be able to see the baby and like hear their heartbeat, and it was just really a really surreal moment, and that was really sweet. I was actually shocked they didn't give me any physical photos. It was all digital, like they sent it to my phone. I kind of wish I had like a paper copy, but I just printed a copy. So that was on the 15th of May. At that point I was 7 weeks and 3 days. The heartbeat was nice and strong at 145 beats per minute. And this is when they actually confirmed our due date. I was very close with my estimate. My estimate was December 30th, just based on when I got my last period. But based on that first ultrasound, they estimated a due date of December 29th. And fun fact, if you didn't know this, because I didn't know this until I saw my midwife, but the most accurate due date, what's the word I'm looking for? Not assumption, like guess. I guess the most accurate guess at your due date you're gonna get from a doctor or from any sort of scan, ultrasound, whatever, is going to be that very first one, because so much change happens during that time that it's very easy to pinpoint like exactly how far along you are. Whereas once you get further along in pregnancy, like babies range in how big they are. You know, you could have two 20-week babies and then be like a decent bit different from each other, to where it may be hard to see exactly where they are far along in the process. So I thought that was really interesting information. At this point on that day, we also did a hospital tour of the hospital that my gynecologist at the time would have delivered the baby at. Something I really didn't like though was, and this is something that I found at a lot of practices, is that you don't really know with 100% certainty who is going to be on call the day that you're delivering your baby. And that really just did not give me peace. Like I really want to have a relationship with this person, and I want to feel like we're a team going into this, you know? And I just could never get anybody to say like, nope, this is the person that's going to be with you on that day. And that just really didn't sit right with me. And so that's one of the factors that contributed to why I wanted to do a home birth. I don't think I'm going to get into the whys of why I chose home birth at the end of the day in this video. If you guys are interested in a like why I chose home birth video, I would be so happy to make one, because I think it's really fascinating. But at the end of the day, after assessing risk and looking into all of my options, because I did explore all of my options, and looking at different midwives and different care providers and different things that my insurance is allowed, this is what we decided on, and I'm very excited about it. Right now the plan is to deliver at home a water birth with unmedicated. That is currently the plan. I'm very flexible though. One thing that I love about my midwife is that she's very, from what I gather, she takes the very no-nonsense approach of like, we're not here to play games and we're not risking anything. So there are like a couple factors where like, if she deems it unsafe or risky, she's going to transfer me to the hospital that she has a relationship with, that she knows is best at handling XYZ situation. And I loved that, because at the end of the day, while I want to have a home birth, more than having a home birth, I want to have a safe baby and a safe delivery, and so that made me feel really good. But right now that's the plan, and I'm open to changes. I still have these in my ears. Oh Lord, oh Lord. I just realized I was like, that's bothering me. I'm open to changes, but for the most part, that is the plan. So anyways, around this point when I did that hospital tour, was one of the things that I was like, this is when I was starting to decide, do I really want to go all in on the midwife thing? And doing it that way. I feel like a lot of people have really bad, at least in my circles, like not really bad, but just like they're not really educated on home birth and midwifery. Like today, I think it's a very like outdated view that a lot of people have on it, where they think it's like the hippie thing to do that's like unsanitary or unsafe, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And so it took a little bit of convincing, and I still don't think some people are completely convinced that that's the best decision, but that's okay, because Robert and I are, and I've really loved my experience with my midwife so far. So that was May 15th, and that was the first time I got to hear the baby's heartbeat. Also, just to add on to that for a little bit as I'm reading through my notes, my midwife is a nurse midwife who is also in network with my insurance. So my insurance will be covering like 90% of the cost of birth, or at least will be reimbursing me for what I pay. And so that was huge. I didn't know that when I made the decision, and I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't want finances to sway what I felt was best for my baby. But after I made the decision and then I found out that information, I was like, what a huge confirmation. Yes, I would like to go this route. A couple other symptoms I wrote down at this point was that I still was having some nausea and queasiness, and still very tired. At this point, I had just come back from that cruise, and I literally slept. Anytime I wasn't working, I was sleeping. So that was that, and I did feel really bad, because I was like, obviously Robert feels fine. So I was like, please go do things, but he was very sweet and stayed with me while I slept in the room. And so yeah, and then we also found out that it was only one baby, and so that answered a big question of mine too, because I was like, whoa, because I feel like for the longest time people have been speaking over us that we're gonna have like more than one baby, or like twins and stuff, even though that doesn't run in the family for either of us. So I was a little nervous about that, but only one in there. Sweet. Okay, so moving on. Now, my next notes are at 7 weeks and 6 days, which was May 18th. Sore boobs was still happening, or actually sensitive nipples and sore boobs. I definitely was more sensitive and emotional, and then a stronger aversion to foods. This was a symptom that kind of hit me like a truck, and it was really unfortunate for me, and it's something that I noticed on that cruise was like, let me just say this, if you don't know, like, I am the least pickiest eater you will ever meet in your life. Like, I am not a picky eater. I love food. I can eat almost everything. And rare does the thought of food, even if I don't like it, make me like sick. Yeah, can't say the same for pregnancy. Can't say the same at all. In fact, unfortunately, it can be something that I love, and if the smell is slightly off for me, I don't even want to be near it. Like, I need to remove myself from the situation. And so like walking through the buffet on that cruise was torture. I didn't want to do it. I refused to do it because it literally just like the smells were so overwhelming, like it made me feel sick. There were times where like if somebody was making food in the house, that just for some reason, it doesn't even have to smell bad. Like, I can acknowledge that it's a smell that I would have deemed good at another time in my life, but during pregnancy, no. it's just not happening. And it's random too. Like, just because something smells bad to me today does not mean it's gonna smell bad to me tomorrow. So that was really rough, and just the thought of some foods just like made me feel disgusting. So that was fun. I also wrote here my excretory system has been active. So that's a note. And then, oh, here's another one, is after my ultrasound on the 15th, I did have some light spotting when I went to the bathroom. That was pretty much only for the night, and then it was super light. And I know that's something that like can freak people out, and thankfully I have a friend who is 2 weeks ahead of me in her pregnancy, and then I also was kind of given a heads up by the ultrasound tech that that may happen. And that it is a perfectly normal thing to do, and your cervix is just more sensitive during pregnancy. So something like I also got a pap smear that day, so something like a pap smear, and then also a vaginal ultrasound, which is what I got. It's very common to have some light spotting after, and so I did. So I didn't really have to worry about it because I was kind of expecting it. And so that was my first and my last doctor's appointment, really. And I've actually really enjoyed my experience so far. I'll tell you a little bit more about my experience with my midwife in a bit. At this point though, I was also highly emotional, and I was kind of going through this crisis of like, I feel like a lot of people probably go through this, where just fearing that like I'm gonna have this baby and like lose all of my friends and like the community that we've built, and like we weren't going to be invited to things, or people weren't going to want to be around us because we had a kid and things like that. And so, which are just lies from the enemy to try and get me to isolate myself. And I've been struggling with that a lot the past couple weeks. It's been a little bit better this week, in the past 2 weeks, I'd say. But that was like a big hurdle that I had to get over, and I'm not quite there yet. But I feel like we were also going through a really stressful period during this time, because not only were we in this like really intense travel season trying to navigate my first trimester of pregnancy, but we also were like kind of figuring out like what our next steps for housing were and what we're gonna do there, what that's gonna look like. Not gonna get into all the details of that, but it was just a very stressful time between work, life, all of that. And so it was just my brain being mean to me during that time. And I feel like it's been a little bit better. I have since been in therapy, which is good and healthy. I had my first consultation with a therapist last week, I think, and we've decided we're gonna do 2 times a month and just kind of work on like thoughts about my childhood and my relationship with my parents and things like that, because I just felt like before baby comes, that's something that I would really like to do, is make sure that like mentally, emotionally, like in that mental health area, I'm as healthy as I can be and hyper aware of how my experience may or may not affect the way that I parent this child, and really taking ownership of that parenting style and not just blindly passing things down from my experiencing without realizing and being really intentional about it. And so I kind of started therapy for those reasons. We're gonna get Robert into counseling as well. Robert is not currently on health insurance, so it's gonna be a little expensive, but we feel like it's a investment worth making. That way we can just be as whole of humans and people with like, we've processed all of our things before bringing a child into the world, and so we don't pass down anything that maybe we don't even realize is a thing within ourselves. So that's something that we started to do. I got a little bit ahead of myself, but this kind of conversation kind of provoked that thought in me to want to do that, and so that's what we did. And I think it's been good so far, and I think it'll be the healthy thing to do in the long run. So if you're having babies and you haven't met with somebody yet, I suggest you do, because it's healthy for everybody. You don't have to have experienced something traumatic or have like a crazy life to benefit from having somebody to talk to and process your life out, because you don't know what you don't know, and it's just nice. It's just a good, healthy thing, and it's important to take care of your brain and check in with that just the same as it is the rest of your body. So that's my 2-piece on mental health. Moving on, especially because another thing, postpartum depression is just something that I really would like to avoid, or at least you can't really avoid it, but at least start putting healthy practices in now that I can create with this therapist to kind of help me if that's something that I face then, and that's something we've discussed. And so I just really want to be taken care of as like a whole person, both physically and mentally. So I suggest that. Okay, anyways, May 25th, I was 8 weeks and 6 days. At this point, I had new symptoms. I had increased mucus, nasal mucus. That is an interesting symptom that moms get. Some moms get. It's just increased mucus in general, whether it be vaginal discharge or it just be like your nasal passages are extra mucousy. Like I would literally go in the shower and just blow my nose and have like globs of stuff come up, and I didn't feel sick, and it was just the weirdest thing. And so that was fun. My boobs were sore, still very much struggling with energy and focus. Working was really hard. I did have a little bit of a sweet tooth, that I'm not normally a sweet tooth kind of person, so that was interesting. And I had less of a desire for water, even though I had more of a need for water. I was on prenatals at this point. I'm still on prenatals. I've been on the same prenatal since before we got pregnant. I've been taking the Mega Food Baby and Me Too prenatal multi. This does have choline and folate in it, and it is derived from real food and like real ingredients, the vitamins, and so I've really been enjoying these. Basically how I chose this was I did a lot of research into like good holistic prenatals. Sorry, but the pregnancy brain fog is a real thing. Like sometimes you're trying to think and you just can't. I did a lot of research into that pre-pregnancy, and so I had already had some when I did get pregnant, and I'm really glad that I did. I even like read the reviews, and I saw somebody in one of the reviews was like, when I gave birth to my baby, one of the nurses said that this was like the strongest umbilical cord she'd ever seen in her life or something like that, and I was like, sold, want that. So got those. My midwife approved of them, and then I've actually been reading this pregnancy book called The Mama Natural. It says week by week guide to pregnancy and childbirth. It has been really great so far. You don't have to agree with everything that everybody says in every book, and she does a really great job of saying like, hey, natural birth can mean different things to different people, and whether you're having a baby in a hospital or you're having a baby at home or you're medicated or unmedicated, you still would benefit from this book, because as far as like holistic living and approaching your pregnancy in a very like homeopathic, holistic, very natural, organic way, it gives a lot of really great information on like just cleaning out your house of toxins that are harmful, or just like foods that are really good and nourishing to your body during pregnancy and that are going to prepare you. And like, I've been really enjoying it. I find the information fascinating. Then again, like I just always find anything that like, to me it is such a beautiful thing how God designed this earth with absolutely everything we need to take care of ourselves. Like the fact that ginger and ginger tea and ginger chews and just ginger in general helps with nausea in pregnancy, to me is just like, wow, God is so cool. Like he created this, like he literally gave us everything to take care of us right here. And that is just, and just reading that book just keeps reminding me of how cool that is, how like everything we need is literally right here on this earth, and there are like natural approaches to it. Not that anything is wrong with medicine or drugs or pills or I don't know, medicine, anything like that, but I just find that really fascinating, and I've really enjoyed it no matter how you decide to bring your baby into the world. So I've been reading that and I've been loving it. Oh, at this point I did not know the gender of my baby. My mom had 3 children, myself, my sister, and my brother. And I will note here that it says, Mom says that only one of her babies made her nipples hurt, and that was Gian, my brother. Makes me wonder if you're a boy. Right now, almost everyone is team girl, but we'll see. So take that as you will. Okay, so the next big thing that we have is I had a midwife appointment on June 1st, and that was my first official midwife appointment that wasn't a consultation. At this midwife appointment, she took my blood, she sent it off to the lab. We also did a, I had to pee in a cup, she did a glucose test there. She did a couple different tests. just to check and make sure that everything is good. We listened to baby's heartbeat. And then she also drew more blood to send off to this company called Sneak Peek that can give you an early results as to what your baby is, the sex of your baby. I also had the choice at this point whether or not I wanted to do a genetic test and just have like a full write-up of all of the possibilities that could be part of our baby's makeup. We elected to not do that. That was a personal decision. I don't feel any kind of way about it. If you want to do that, great. If you don't, great. For us specifically, I just know myself, and I know that sometimes those things are wrong, and sometimes you get told things that aren't necessarily what's the truth or what happens. And even if it is right, sometimes there's things that may be wrong that there's nothing you can do for it, you know? And so we just chose to not have that information, and we're just gonna probe our baby, and when the baby gets here, if God forbid anything is wrong, then we will approach that in the moment. But I just didn't want to potentially have anything come back from that test that was going to add stress to the next 9 months of my life. And so we decided to elect to not have that done. People feel different ways about it, but that was my decision, and I feel good about it. So, but we did do the Sneak Peek gender test, and again, that was collected on June 1st. I got my results 2 days later on June 3rd on my birthday, and it was such an exciting day because I was literally like waiting all day long for these results. I was so excited, and they said that I was going to get them anytime from 7 to 11 p.m. on that day, and I got it at 7:11 p.m. My birthday was great. We like woke up, my husband took me out to lunch with some friends, and then we went back home. We went to my mom's house where they had prepared a dinner for me, and then we had a very impromptu gender reveal the moment I got those results. Like, oh, and then that morning we actually went to a football game because Robert's been playing flag football. And so I told my mother-in-law, I was like, if I get the results tonight, are you willing to drive to my parents' house so that we can have a really quick, like, just gender reveal? Because I knew that I would not have a free weekend after this day to do like any sort of gender reveal thing. So I was like, we're just gonna find out now. Like, if I get that email, we're just gonna find out and we're gonna do gender reveal. And so, at 7-Eleven, I got the results. Everybody, not everybody, but family that was there. I had my mom and my dad there. I had my stepdad, my stepmom. I had myself, my siblings, some of my step siblings. I had my aunt and uncle. I had some of my cousins. I had my mother-in-law and father-in-law there, and my grandparents. And so honestly, that was great. I mean, we would have loved to have had more people, and had we planned a little bit more, we probably could have, but I just didn't want to wait. And so, yeah, so we did it, and I will insert the footage here, and you guys can find out what the gender of our baby is.
3, 2, 1, go!
Wait, one of them was pink and the other was blue.
There's no pink in that one. It's all blue, baby.
It is a boy. I'm frozen. Hopefully.
3, 2, 1, go!
you've seen it, folks. We are having a boy. So in the moment, as you can see, I was very shocked, like 100% shocked. So the whole pregnancy, I was very much so thinking I was having a girl. Mind you, I had no instincts telling me that. I had nothing in my body, in my mind telling me that I was having a girl, other than purely the fact that, like, I've always seen myself as a girl mom. I've always seen Robert as a girl dad. The only name we had picked out for a kid was a girl's name. And that's just all I ever imagined for myself. And so while in the moment I was just really shocked, I would say the next day I started to get a little bit of gender disappointment. If you don't know about that, you can go look it up. I'm not going to explain it. But I definitely was a little sad. I did a decent bit of crying about it to Robert. And that's especially part of the reason why I haven't like posted anything about it, was because I really wanted to process those feelings before like broadcasting to the world. It was, I would say, give it about a week that I kind of like got over it, but I feel like it's not that I've gotten over it, I've just seen more clearly. I think that gender norms and these like pre-thought of expectations that you have in your mind like make you like favor one gender or the other. And I think for me that a big thing that I was experiencing was I wanted like a little me almost to share everything with, but in reality, like, you're not guaranteed a child who's going to be like you or even like the things that you like, and that's totally okay. If anything, like, I'm so excited to be all in on whatever this child like is passionate about and to learn new things alongside them. Like, I don't want a clone of me, but I think that like deep in my mind that's what I was envisioning, and like I think it was a good challenge for me to find out that we were having a boy, because it kind of made me self-reflect on why I had that that favoritism towards having a girl, I guess. But since then, another thing that really spoke a lot of life into me that I think the Lord revealed to me as I was praying during this time was like, the world has a lot of strong women, and the women who are raising strong women are doing a beautiful job. But the world seriously lacks in kind, strong, like godly men. And the fact that Robert and I get to have the responsibility and the honor of partnering with Jesus in raising up a man who will honor him in this world, then like that is a gift and an honor far beyond anything I could ask for. And 100% you can do that with a girl. Like, that is not to say anything about having a girl, because Lord knows I hope I have a girl in the future. But I think that it was just a good reality check for me and reminding myself of the purpose of parenthood, and not to be so distracted by like the frills and the cutesy things of having a baby, but it just reminded me of the mission and the call that we have as parents, parenting underneath God's authority. And I think it's just grounded me a lot. And it took me a minute to like be like, okay, my disappointment is coming from the world's view of parenting and not God's view of parenting, because at the end of the day, it's the way we raise them up for him and to know him and love him that matters most. And I get the opportunity. There's so many things that I love to do that I would have showed to my son and shared with him anyways. I think that it's just like the world's idea of boyhood that's like got to me, because like I'm not a sporty girl. Does not matter to me in the slightest. And so like when you go to like Target or something and all the boys' clothes only have like sports stuff on it, or dinosaurs or astronauts or like stuff like that, it just like made me roll my eyes because I hated it. And it still makes me roll my eyes, but thankfully I have had friends who have been very wonderful and have sent me links to websites and things that have boy clothes that are not so obnoxious. Like, there's nothing wrong if you are about that or like that at all. Nothing at all. It's just me, not my taste, and that's okay. so it's been encouraging to see that, okay, there is not one way to dress a boy. We can take other approaches. And I'm just excited to raise a very well-rounded human being with very well-rounded interests in general. We do not subscribe to the idea of there is one way to raise a boy and he can only have these interests. No. And thankfully Robert and I are on the same page about that. So now I'm far more excited to have a boy. Now, mind you, this was almost 2 months ago now, which is crazy. But I feel a lot better about it now. Well, I'm gonna wait. Let me not get ahead of myself. Anyways, okay, moving on. So I talked a little bit about my gender disappointment in here, but we were feeling good. So that was all found out on June 3rd, and I was kind of processing all of those feelings that week. At this point, my symptoms had not changed very much, and I didn't take very many notes past that, but I did write a recap of my first trimester. So here we go. First trimester, this is a recap of all of the symptoms we experienced. So stinky pits, sore boobs and nipples, nausea, I cannot have an empty stomach, but only threw up once, exhaustion, lots of naps needed, which is really hard because I kept feeling like I was just failing at work and like my business, and like that was being neglected, and it was really bugging me because like our businesses are whole, like there's no salary for us, like we gotta do the work to make money, and so it was really killing me because like I felt like I couldn't take a break, but Robert was really good at reminding me of like, hey, your body's going through a lot. If you go take a nap, like the world is not gonna crumble, our business is not gonna crumble, our couples are not gonna hate you, like go take a nap, we got this. And thankfully he was absolutely right. Like we've caught up. We had a season of like we were busy, like just trying to get things out the door and doing a lot, but we've caught up, we've done it. And if I need to take a nap, I just need to take a nap, because if I'm doing work sleepy, it's not my best work anyways. So if you feel that way, I feel you. Congestion, increased discharge. When I went to my midwife appointment, well actually after that midwife appointment on June 1st, when she got my blood test results back from the lab, she did let me know that I had a UTI, which is new news to me because I had never had one before. And she said it was an asymptomatic UTI, meaning I did not feel the symptoms of it, but it was present. Which is very interesting, and I'm very grateful that I didn't feel the symptoms. Mind you, the Lord has definitely taken care of me this pregnancy. Like, I have to say, I really can't complain too much, and I feel very blessed to say that. I recognize the blessing that is, and I'm saying that in this video, but I would never say that to anybody else because I just don't want people to hate me. Yeah, so I've had to drink a lot of water, been drinking cranberry juice, all that stuff, and then actually, I had a midwife appointment, I think it was June 28th or 29th, something like somewhere around there. That was my second midwife appointment, and at that point we went over the blood work in person. She only really told me like the dire things over text, which really wasn't much. So we went over that in person. We got to listen to the heartbeat again. I always pee in a cup. She always runs a test. I'm not quite sure what test she runs every time. I'm gonna have to ask next time. I think it's a glucose test just to make sure like my blood sugar is in a good place. So there was that. But I've been really loving my midwife appointments because they're kind of like, they don't feel as rushed as I felt like my OB gynecologist appointments were. She's like very open to conversation. I'm wanting to talk and see how I'm feeling, but not just like physically, but just like in general. She's very like good at educating me on what's happening in my body. And it's been great having Robert there too, because sometimes I forget things, but he does not forget things. And so he'll bring things up like at our appointment. Like I didn't even bring up the whole gender disappointment thing, but he did, and it's just good to have him there because he's really attentive and he's really great at asking questions. So props, snaps to Robert. And so I've been really enjoying those, and they've been very educational. It's been really great just being able to have her phone number, and like anytime I like have any question at all or want to run something by her or feel like something was weird in my body, like she's always very quick to respond and like put that to peace. So I've been really loving that. I also had in my first trimester mild cramping / quick sharp pains in that region. I did reach out to her about that. They're not like super frequent. It was very like few and far between, but still when you feel something it like freaks you out. And she was very good at telling me like, nope, it's just your body making room for baby. Like, and she used the hot air balloon example is what she calls it, where your uterus is like a hot air balloon and it has like tendons trying to like weigh it down, but your body's trying to grow and pull it up. So as your uterus is stretching up in your body to make space for baby, those tendons are being pulled on, trying to keep it down. And so they're really being stretched, which is so cool. But she's like, that doesn't happen without a little bit of feelings sometimes. And so what you're feeling in the sharp pains and cramping is probably that. And that was a really great mental picture to have because it helped me like visualize so well what was happening in my body. And another symptom that I've been having that I have not been loving, thank you very much, and I don't quite know how to get rid of it, is nightmares and like very vivid dreams. I've had more nightmares in the past couple weeks than I have in my entire life. So that's been fun. And just like very vivid dreams, and oftentimes they're not like happy, like they're not sad, but they're just a little stressful. And so I wake up a little bit stressed, and I have not been loving that at all. I've tried like putting my phone away before sleep, like I'm not watching anything stressful, not thinking about anything stressful, reading my Bible before I go to sleep, but it's just like my brain is very active at night right now with the dreams. And so that's something I'm just gonna keep praying about, is that those nightmares stop, and like I'm fine with vivid dreams, just make them be happy like peaceful dreams. So that's been a funky one. Cravings for acidity, like guys, the cravings for like something sour and tart and vinegary, especially vinegary, have been so strong. My favorite things throughout my first trimester were orange juice, lemonade, like salt and vinegar flavors, like very stereotypical, but pickles, pickled jalapenos. Like if something can come pickled, I want it. And that has been something that's like been very prominent for me. It's just been very interesting, and I hate to say it to you guys, but like sandwiches, I've been really wanting sandwiches. And I have personally made the decision that cold cuts are not something that I'm staying away from. Like I'm not like shoving them in my face every day, but if I have a craving for like Jersey Mike's or something like that, like I get it. And I'll load the sucker up in vinegar. And that's a personal decision. But just when it comes to like listeria and things like that, I've done the research, and based on what I've seen, it's just like cold cuts to me are not my biggest worry. So just gonna put that out there. But the sandwiches have been great. So anyways, and then more of a sweet tooth than normal. And there's been that. So that's pretty much the end of my first trimester. At that point, you know, my first trimester kept going, but like everything was pretty much the same at that point. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm thinking about, but at this point now I'm in my second trimester. I'm not going to get into that too much until my second trimester recap video. But I've been really enjoying reading my pregnancy book and just learning all of those things. I literally feel like I am like reading a textbook, but like the most fascinating textbook of my life. Like I don't think you guys understand, like if you have been watching my channel for a long time, or if you know anything about me, like I went to school at UF going into it thinking that I was going to leave there ready to go to med school to become like an OBGYN so that I could deliver babies. So this has always been a passion of mine, and like watching births is like fascinating to me. Like I've always wanted to do this. I quickly learned in college that science classes were not my vibe, and I didn't want to go through the years of schooling that med school required, and I kind of just embraced more of the creative side. It's a whole story as part of my testimony of how the Lord really helped me reform my identity and not make it so heavily reliant on my academic success and all of that. But anyways, all of that to say is I've always been fascinated in pregnancy and birth, and the fact that I'm now in this stage, like, I'm just eating it up. And like I said before, we had a really busy season in my first trimester to where I really didn't get to enjoy it the way I would have liked to. And so now that I'm in my second trimester, we're kind of past that busy season and we're actually working ahead rather than trying to catch up. It's just been so fun getting to like actually read the books, watch the videos. Robert has a book that he's been reading, and I'll put it in here. I'll put the cover in here and link it on Amazon because he says he's been loving it. And there are things that he'll tell me about what's going on in my body that I didn't even realize. And it's been really great about teaching like first-time dads about like how they can be a good partner and what's going on in their partner's bodies. And he's even been like thinking about, like, it said that something that's good for him to do is to start making like a dad meal list. Like if the wife is the one who primarily makes meals, like to start making a meal list. That way when baby comes, he can make meals for us and kind of have things in his back pocket that he already knows how to make. And like, I'm just like, that's so sweet. So when he told me that he was gonna start doing that, I'm just like, okay, thank you. Because in our family, I am the one to primarily cook, but I just think that's been such a great tool, and I've just been loving that he's been consistent with it, and like I haven't had to like ask him to or anything. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. That's been my first trimester. We're very excited for baby now. We have about 2 names picked out that we really like. We're leaning pretty heavily on one, but I don't think we're going to decide anything for sure until we meet him. But we're really excited. We can't wait. We told all of our family and friends at this point. I actually forgot to put that in here where there's a whole video about us telling all of them. We told them pretty early in our pregnancies because we were so excited, but everyone is so excited. We cannot wait to meet our little man. And so till December, but thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!